Welcome to the Hawthorne Mind, the channel designed to challenge the way you think, push your limits, and help you master the art of success. You are one decision away from changing your entire life, one mindset shift away from unlocking your full potential, and one action away from stepping into the person you were meant to become. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't luck. It's mindset, discipline, and relentless action. And that's exactly what we're here to master together. Here, we combine psychology, neuroscience, and the success principles of the world's greatest minds to give you practical strategies that actually work. Whether you want to build unstoppable confidence, break free from limitations, or create a life of success and freedom, this is where your transformation begins. So if you're ready to take control of your life, hit subscribe and let's start this journey together. Because the only thing standing between you and the life you deserve is you. The surprising reason you should never touch a guy's Adam's apple. All right, picture this. You're sitting across from a guy, maybe your boyfriend, a crush, or just a friend, and for some reason, you notice it. The Adam's apple, that little bump on his throat. It moves when he talks, when he swallows, and suddenly you get this urge. What would happen if you just poked it? Would he freak out? Would he even notice? Well, let me tell you, my friend, there's a reason why you probably shouldn't go there. And it's not just because it's a little awkward. No, there's actually a surprising, almost shocking reason why touching a guy's Adam's apple can trigger a reaction that you might not expect. And trust me, once you hear this, you'll never look at that little throat bump the same way again. So, what's the deal with the Adam's apple? Why do guys have it, and why does it seem so sensitive? To really get into it, we've got to take a little trip into biology, human reflexes, and even psychology. Yeah, you heard me right. This isn't just a physical thing. It's got some mind game elements too. The weird science behind the Adam's apple. Okay, let's start with the basics. The Adam's apple is basically a chunk of cartilage, more specifically, the thyroid cartilage, that grows larger in males during puberty. That's why most guys have a noticeable one, while for girls, it's much smaller or not visible at all. It's a sign of testosterone doing its thing, thickening the vocal cords and deepening the voice. That's why when a guy's voice breaks during puberty, the Adam's apple is right there, leading the charge. But here's where things get interesting. That area of the throat, it's super vulnerable. Like, biologically speaking, it's one of the weakest, most sensitive parts of the body. If you've ever watched action movies where someone gets hit in the throat and instantly goes down, that's not just dramatic acting, that's real. The trachea or windpipe sits right behind that cartilage, and it's not protected by bones like the rest of the body. That means even a light press on the Adam's apple can make a guy feel uncomfortable, short of breath, or even trigger a gag reflex. And if you've ever actually touched one, especially by accident, you probably noticed the reaction was immediate. A guy will pull away, make a weird face, or even get defensive. That's because it's not just sensitive, it's a reflex zone. The unexpected reflex nobody talks about. So here's where it gets even crazier. The Adam's apple is directly connected to the autonomic nervous system, meaning touching it can trigger a response that's completely out of a guy's control. Ever heard of the laryngeal spasm? Basically, if the throat feels threatened, it can go into defense mode, tightening up and making breathing feel weird for a second. Now imagine this. You're playfully touching a guy's throat, maybe just messing around, and suddenly he jerks back like you just zapped him. He doesn't even know why, his body just reacts. And if you press too hard, you might actually trigger a minor choking response. Yeah, not exactly the cute, flirty moment you were going for, huh? But wait, it gets weirder. Why it feels so uncomfortable, even if it's just a light touch. Have you ever had someone press the middle of your palm in just the right way that makes you feel strangely uncomfortable? The Adam's apple is like that, but way more intense. Some guys say it feels like a mix between being tickled and being choked, which, let's be real, is not a fun combination. Others say it creates this weird, vulnerable feeling, like their body is telling them, hey, protect your throat at all costs. And that's actually backed by psychology. The throat is one of the most instinctively guarded areas of the human body. Think about it. When people feel threatened, what do? They lower their chin, protect their neck, or even raise their hands defensively. It's an ancient survival instinct. So when you touch a guy's Adam's apple, even if you're just playing around, it bypasses all logical thinking and taps directly into that primal defense mode. He's not thinking, oh, someone's touching my throat, that's fine. Nope. His brain is instantly firing off signals that scream, danger, danger. Real-life reactions, what guys say about it now. If you think I'm making this up, just ask any guy if he likes having his Adam's apple touched. The reactions will tell you everything. I actually did a little informal survey on this, and let me tell you, the responses were hilarious and very, very consistent. Dude, if someone touches my Adam's apple, I literally get a full body shiver. It's the worst feeling. My girlfriend tried to poke it once, and I reacted so fast she thought I was mad at her. I just couldn't control it. It's not pain exactly, but it's like, ugh, don't do that. I can't explain why, but it feels like I'm being attacked, even if it's gentle. So yeah, it's not just in your head. This is a real thing, and it's not about being overly sensitive or dramatic. It's literally wired into their biology. So, should you ever touch it? Look, I'm not saying it's a crime to touch a guy's Adam's apple. If you're really curious, you could always ask and see what happens. But just know that, for most guys, it's going to trigger a reaction they can't control. And probably not in the way you were hoping. If you're flirting or being playful, there are about 1,000,000 better ways to get a reaction, like ruffling his hair, playfully nudging his arm, or even just locking eyes with a mischievous grin. Trust me, those will work way better than a throat jab. But hey, if you really want to see a guy squirm for absolutely no reason, now you know the secret weapon. Just don't say, I didn't warn you. And there you have it. The surprisingly weird, slightly hilarious, and totally unexpected reason why you should never touch a guy's Adam's apple. If you found this interesting, drop a comment below if you've ever tried this and what happened. And if you're a guy, let us know. Does this reaction sound familiar? Hit that like button if you enjoyed this. Subscribe for more weird and fun insights into human behavior, and I'll see you in the next one. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, I get it. Touching a guy's Adam's apple is weird, but is it really that big of a deal? And honestly, Yes, yes, it is. Because this isn't just about biology or reflexes. There's something deeper going on here. Something that taps into how we interact, how we flirt, and even how we understand personal boundaries without realizing it. You ever have one of those moments where you do something playful, expecting a lighthearted reaction, but instead, the other person gets all serious out of nowhere? Like maybe you jokingly push a friend, and suddenly they get all stiff and say, "Hey, don't do that." And for a split second, there's this weird tension in the air, like you crossed some invisible line and you don't even know why. That's kind of what happens when you touch a guy's Adam's apple. You might think it's just a harmless little poke, a funny curiosity, but for him, it's this bizarre mix of physical discomfort, subconscious defense mechanisms, and even a little bit of vulnerability he didn't sign up for. And let's be real, when someone suddenly feels vulnerable in a way they weren't expecting, it changes the whole dynamic of the moment. It's like that unspoken rule about tickling. If someone hates being tickled, it doesn't matter if you think it's cute or funny. If they instinctively flinch, push your hand away, or get genuinely annoyed, you know to stop. The Adam's apple is kind of like that, but even more intense because it's connected to something way more primal: the instinct to protect the throat. And let me tell you, that instinct runs deep. The ancient instinct that makes this so uncomfortable. Let's go back in time for a second. Way, way back. Before phones, before cities, before even basic civilization. Imagine you're living in the wild, surrounded by all kinds of dangers, animals, rival tribes, who knows what else. What's one of the easiest ways to take someone down in a fight? The throat. If you watch nature documentaries, you'll see predators always go for the neck. It's the quickest way to incapacitate prey. And humans? We're wired to know that, even if we don't think about it consciously. That's why, when someone gets too close to our neck, it triggers this deep, instinctual reaction, kind of like a cat immediately twisting away when you try to rub its belly. It's not about trust or even fear. It's just a built-in survival mechanism. And the Adam's apple, sitting right there in the center of the throat, is like a flashing warning sign to the body. Protect this spot at all costs. This is why, when you touch it, a guy might laugh awkwardly or act like he's overreacting, but inside, his body is already on high alert. His brain is sending signals like, danger? No? Maybe? What's happening? And that weird, immediate discomfort isn't something he can control. I actually had a friend tell me a story about this once. He was on a date with a girl he really liked, and they were playfully teasing each other. You know, that fun stage where you're flirting, pushing boundaries just a little to see how the other person reacts. She suddenly reached over and lightly tapped his Adam's apple, not even thinking about it. His immediate reaction? He recoiled so fast, he nearly knocked his drink over. She laughed, thinking he was joking. He laughed too, but later he told me, "Dude, I hated that. I don't even know why. I just hated it." And that's the thing. It's not about logic. It's about how we're built. Why this matters more than you think. Okay, so maybe now you're thinking, all right, I get why guys don't love it, but is it really that serious? And the answer is, kind of, yeah. Because this is about more than just one specific thing. It's about understanding how small actions, things we think are harmless, can actually have a bigger impact than we realize. Think about how often we assume other people are okay with things just because we are. Like, maybe you're a super affectionate person who loves hugging, but your best friend isn't really into physical touch. To you, a big, enthusiastic hug is just your way of showing love. But to them, it might feel overwhelming, even if they know you mean well. Same thing here. The Adam's apple might seem like a fun curiosity, but to most guys, touching it crosses this weird, invisible boundary. It's not necessarily bad, but it's uncomfortable, and that's enough of a reason to respect it. And honestly, this goes beyond just guys. We all have those little things that make us feel uneasy, things we might not even be able to explain. Some people hate when their ears get touched. Others can't stand when someone unexpectedly puts a hand on their back. It's different for everyone, but the important thing is recognizing that those reactions are real, even if they don't always make logical sense. So, what should you do instead? All right, let's say you're in a playful mood and you want to tease a guy, get a reaction, or just be affectionate in a fun way. If the Adam's apple is off limits, what are some better moves? Well, first off, ask yourself what reaction you're going for. If you're trying to get that flustered, caught off guard look, there are plenty of other ways. A light touch on the forearm, a playful nudge, even just locking eyes with a mischievous smirk. Trust me, those are way more effective than a throat jab. If you're going for something a little more teasing, messing with his hair is almost always a safe bet. Ruffling it, running your fingers through it in a light, playful way. Most guys won't mind that, and some even secretly like it. Plus, no risk of activating some ancient survival instinct that makes him want to flee. And if you're just straight up curious about his reaction, ask, seriously. Say something like, "Hey, is it true guys hate when you touch their Adam's apple?" Most guys will immediately get defensive, which is funny on its own. And if you're lucky, he'll let you try just once before immediately pulling away and confirming that, yes, it's as weird as he thought. Final thoughts. At the end of the day, this whole thing isn't just about one weird bodily reaction. It's about understanding the little things that make people tick, the subconscious instincts we all have, and why respecting those boundaries, no matter how small, actually makes our connection stronger. So, the next time you get the urge to poke a guy's Adam's apple, maybe think twice. Not because it's some huge, unforgivable sin, but because now you know that little spot is wired to freak him out, and there are much better ways to get a fun reaction. But hey, if you do try it, at least now you'll understand why he looks at you like you just activated his fight or flight response. And with that, I'll leave you with this. If you've ever been on the receiving end of an unexpected touch that made you instantly uncomfortable, drop a comment below. Let's see how many of us have weird little quirks like this. And if you're a guy, confirm or deny. Does the Adam's apple thing get to you? Or are you one of the rare exceptions? So, here's the real takeaway from all of this. The smallest actions can have the biggest impact. Something as simple as touching someone's Adam's apple, something that might seem totally harmless to you, can trigger an automatic reaction that they can't control. And that's kind of the bigger lesson here, right? It's not really about the Adam's apple. I mean, yeah, we've had a good laugh about it, and now you've got this weird little fact stored away for future reference. But on a deeper level, this is about awareness. It's about realizing that people have these invisible boundaries, these instinctive reactions, and even if we don't always understand why something makes someone uncomfortable, the fact that it does is reason enough to respect it. And the cool part? The more you start paying attention to these little things, the more naturally you start reading people, understanding what makes them tick, what makes them light up, what makes them feel safe and comfortable. That's not just useful for something random like this. It's a game changer in all of your relationships. Whether it's with friends, family, or someone you're interested in, the ability to pick up on small cues and respond with empathy, that's a superpower. Because think about it. How many times do people accidentally cross a boundary just because they assume everyone feels the same way they do? Maybe someone loves roughhousing with their friends, so they assume shoving someone in a playful way is just good fun. But the other person might hate that kind of physical contact. Or maybe someone grew up in a super affectionate family, so they assume hugging and touching are just normal. But to someone else, that might feel overwhelming. When you start paying attention to how people react instead of just how you feel about something, you build better connections. You become that person who just gets people, the one who knows how to make someone feel comfortable without even trying. And trust me, that's rare. So yeah, this whole thing started with a funny little fact about why you shouldn't poke a guy's Adam's apple. But if you take anything from this, let it be this. Pay attention to how people react to small things. Not just the obvious stuff, like if they straight up tell you they don't like something, but the subtle reactions, the flinches, the shifts in body language, the little signs that say, hey, this makes me uncomfortable, even if they don't say it out loud. And when you respect those signals, when you adjust your actions, not because someone demanded it, but because you genuinely want them to feel at ease, that's what makes you someone people trust. That's what makes your relationships stronger, your friendships deeper, and your presence more impactful. And honestly, it's so easy to do. It's literally just about paying attention. So, next time you're goofing around with someone, notice the little things. If you see someone subtly shift away, don't take it personally, just take the hint. If someone seems uncomfortable with a joke or a touch, adjust and move on. It's such a simple thing, but it makes all the difference. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one saving someone else from making the mistake of poking a guy's Adam's apple. Imagine being the hero in that situation. Imagine stopping your friend right before they make a guy flinch so hard he spills his drink. You'd be a legend. So, there you have it. Your weirdly useful, totally unexpected lesson of the day. And now I have to know, have you ever accidentally made someone uncomfortable without realizing it? Or have you ever had someone do something that they thought was funny, but to you, it was just plain awkward? Drop it in the comments. I love reading these stories, and I guarantee you're not alone. And hey, if you got something out of this, if this made you think, or even just made you laugh, hit that like button so I know you're vibing with these kinds of topics. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more fun, unexpected insights into human behavior. We've got plenty more weird and interesting stuff to talk about. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.